Hey loyal fans, coming at you with another video lecture, this one about the famous African Americans in U.S. history post-Reconstruction, so after the Reconstruction era. The first one I want to talk to you about is Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington was the person who founded the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama. That became one of the prominent African American colleges in the South, and it was founded by Booker T. Washington to have vocational education. Booker T. Washington thought that African Americans would get equality if they had vocational or job education. So if they were trained to do a certain skill, like be an auto mechanic or be a machinist, fix the machines in the factories, or if they learned shoemaking, a career like that, then they could get equality easier than if they just stayed in unskilled labor jobs like the factories. Booker T. Washington, this is the interesting part about him, he actually accepted social segregation. So he didn't protest against social segregation. He didn't necessarily think it was fair, but for the time being, he thought it was more powerful for African Americans to fight for vocational education instead of fighting for social integration and social togetherness. Now, pretty much his opposite was W.E.B. Du Bois. W.E.B. Du Bois disagreed with Washington. He thought that African Americans should strive through, or to get equality through the political process and through participating in politics. So the more educated, the more conventionally educated, the more college degrees African Americans had, the more equal that Du Bois believed that they would be in society. So Du Bois thought that every African American should go to college. Every African American should have a degree. Every African American should at least get through high school and complete all of their education before going into the workforce. He also wanted to protest for political participation. Remember, the Jim Crow laws and the Black Codes forbid lots of African Americans from voting. So he wanted people to protest those restrictions, if you will, and have full political participation in the government. Now, W.E.B. Du Bois founded the NAACP, or the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, in 1909. And that was the mission of the NAACP, was to work through the government, to work through the laws and politics to get equal rights for African Americans. The last one and the only woman on our list today is Ida B. Wells. Ida B. Wells was an editor of a newspaper in Memphis, and she used her job, to go on an anti-lynching crusade. So she would publish articles and editorials against lynching. Remember, lynching was the practice of killing African Americans for going against Jim Crow laws, or for supposedly going against Jim Crow laws. So those were public executions, public deaths that they were put on a spectacle. And she used her position in the Memphis newspaper to appeal to the federal government and ask them to stop the violence and stop the lynchings, especially where she had grown up in Tennessee. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. Until next time.